Did you ever download a brand new music app and think to yourself, hey, why doesn't it have this very obvious feature? Well, in this video, we hope to highlight a few make or break features that most music app users are expecting, so that hopefully developers can get a better understanding of exactly what we want, right after this. Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am your host, Vortex, from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you are new to the channel, what we do here is release weekly videos teaching people how to produce music on their iOS device. Now, believe it or not, it's not always the case that developers know exactly what users are expecting. Now, of course, we have great forums like the Audiobus forum and various different Facebook groups, and some amazing videos by Jacob Hack, but even still, it can be a little bit difficult. So I thought I'd make a list and jot down some of the must-haves that most users are expecting, and then throw in some nice-to-haves as well, which are probably a little bit more subjective. And if you are an avid music app user, then please comment down below on anything that we've missed, because I'd also like to turn this video into an ultimate list on our blog, so that developers can easily find this information without having to watch this entire video. And if you are a developer, I hope that this video can help you avoid those famous 1-star app reviews. And I really think that after watching this video, you should have a pretty solid idea of what users are expecting from your apps. Plus, stick around to the end of the video to find out how you can save 50% on our brand new rock drum pack called Crash. Alright, and now with that intro aside, let's start diving into these must-have features. But first, just a quick disclaimer to let you guys know that we will be showing both good and bad examples of various apps. But the apps that we do show bad examples in doesn't mean that they're bad apps. And in fact, if they do exist on our iPad at all, and we are showcasing them in a video, you can bet that we love them so much, we just want them to improve. Alright, now let's go ahead and get started with our must-have features. And the number one most important requested feature from music apps is going to be AUv3 compatibility. Now, for those that don't know, AUv3 is basically just like the VST or audio unit standard on the desktop. This allows us to load multiple instances of those apps inside of our DAWs like CUBASIS 3 or inside of DAW solutions like AUM and Audiobus. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people that still don't know that the AUv3 standard even exists on the iPad. But it very much does, folks, and we'll just quickly demonstrate that for you because the process to add a plugin is very similar to how it is on the desktop. So we'll just tap on Add a new MIDI track, tap on MIDI, and we can click on our instrument, and we'll just open up the browser and go to our audio units. And here you can see we can just scroll down through all of our instruments here. These are all audio units that we can just load right into our DAW and load multiple instances of those as well. So for example, we'll just load up the latest VHS synth from AudioKit and play it just like it is. We can choose a preset. For example, we'll choose one of my favorites, like the FM Rhodes here. And of course, we can load more than just instruments. We can close out of this, expand our menu on the left-hand side, and start adding audio unit plugins as well. And that becomes really simple to do. You just click on Tap to add effect, and again, choose your audio units. And here you go, a ton of audio unit plugins to choose from. A lot of these even have desktop counterparts. For example, we can scroll down here to Effectrix, and it pretty much looks just like it does on desktop. So it is 2022, guys. We are going to need audio unit compatibility for all of our instruments and our plugins. Now, very quick before we do end this AUv3 section, I do want to bring up one more part that is a subpart of AUv3, which is AUv3 compact mode. And all that means is that when it first loads up the audio unit, it is going to first be in this compact, smaller mode. Now, of course, you can always make it full screen in pretty much any app here, including CUBASIS. But when you are thinking about and doing many things at once inside of your DAW, you don't always want to have to full screen your app every time you want to use it. So what I'd very much like to see is as much functionality as possible existing here in this compact mode. The next most important feature is going to be Audiobus and AUM compatibility. You are going to have to make sure that your music app does work with Audiobus because not everybody prefers to work inside of a DAW. You can actually do pretty amazing things in these DAW solutions now that we have AUv3 MIDI sequencing apps like Atom and Atom 2. So here we have Audiobus pulled up, and you can see it works pretty simple. You just put in your input here, your input app, then you go to the effect, you can add an effect here, and then you can choose your output. And you can actually output this into a DAW if you'd like. You can see it even has a MIDI section here at the bottom left-hand side where you can start adding your MIDI effects. And then if we open up AUM, it looks very, very similar. You can see you start out with basically just this blank mixer here, and you can then begin adding your tracks. So we have AUM pull up here, and for example, we can just tap on plus, and then we can go to audio, and from here we can go to plus, and once again have access to our audio units. And we can have multiple instances of stuff in here, just like in a regular DAW. So you can go to audio unit extension, we could choose something like World Synth, bring that up, and we can assign our MIDI here, And we just choose the built-in keyboard and our regular keyboard as well. And now we should be able to just start playing. All right, very cool. And we can even start recording things. For example, we can tap on plus again and add a MIDI. We can add one of our audio units here. For example, a MIDI processor like AUM Piano Roll 2. You can bring that up, and then you can easily just start drawing in notes here. We just got to make sure that we route this. So we'll route our AUM unit just like that. Now we have our MIDI audio unit AUM going right into the world synth. So we can close that and hit play. And it's just that simple. You can start to begin to get a DAW-like experience in this DAW-less type app. So AUM and Audiobus compatibility, very, very important. And now the next major feature we're going to talk about is DAW compatibility. Now for those that don't know what that is of course a digital audio workstation, just like the app called CUBASIS that we had up earlier. And a lot of music devs kind of want to know what are the main DAWs that people are using. So if we go into our DAW and chords folder here, I can definitely show you the main DAWs that most people are using here on iOS. Now, of course, the first one is going to be CUBASIS, so that is right here. But then beyond that, I do have some other DAWs here that I know a lot of other people use. And the first one is going to be Aria Pro, Zen Beats, Beatmaker 3, and then Nano Studio 2. And then, of course, Apple's proprietary DAW that I don't have here called GarageBand. Now, that might seem like a lot of different DAWs to have your apps work in, but folks, these are all used by a bunch of different people. Of course, you can always have your big three, right? Like GarageBand, CUBASIS, and Beatmaker 3. But there are plenty of people that still use Zen Beats, Aria Pro, and Nano Studio 2. So you do got to make sure that your app is functional and efficient inside of these DAWs. So once again, real quick, just to go through those, that was Aria Pro, Zen Beats, Beatmaker 3, Nano Studio 2, GarageBand, and of course, the almighty CUBASIS 3. All right, now the next must-have feature that I'd like to speak about is drag and drop. Now, drag and drop by itself might sound kind of vague, so I want to give you some examples so you can know exactly what I'm talking about. So what we have pulled up here is CUBASIS 3 and a file browsing app called Sample Crate, which acts a lot like the traditional Files app built into iOS. So now what the functionality should be here, if I drag and drop one of these files into this DAW, is it really should add a new audio track automatically and place that file on the timeline. But that's not exactly what happens. If we drag and drop, bring it on over, and drop it right here inside of CUBASIS 3, as you can see, absolutely nothing happens. It doesn't even add it into our media bay. So something definitely needs to happen here. Whether that's added into the media bay or creating a new audio track, there needs to be some drag and drop functionality and compatibility here. And going even further, if it was a MIDI file, then it should then create a brand new MIDI track and place that MIDI on the timeline. And it's not just CUBASIS that doesn't support this. There are other iOS DAWs that don't support this drag and drop functionality either. So I really want to hammer this home to music app developers that we really do need drag and drop functionality here, especially from Files apps here like Sample Crate. Now for our next example, we have Digistix 2 pulled up here in its audio unit form inside of CUBASIS 3. And we still have our Sample Crate app here pulled up as well, but this time on the far left-hand side. Now what you can do here, and what a lot more apps are supporting, is the ability to drag files into the app. So let's say you want to build up your drum kit here. We already have a few sounds placed, but I want to change these sounds and make my own kit. So for example, I'll scroll down here to a kick, and I'd like to use this one instead. So let's audition that. So let's drag that kick onto the bass drum. And there we go. Perfect. So you can really see how handy this feature can become for both producers and musicians trying to make music on their iPad. All right, now that we got through those must-haves, it is now time to go into the nice-to-haves. And the very first of those nice-to-have features is going to be a well-thought-out preset browser. So let's show you what we mean by that. We'll just pull up SynthMaster 2 first here, and we'll make this full screen so you can see that easily. Now the preset browser is going to be located right here at the top. And one of the great preset browser features that I'm expecting in most music apps is the ability to easily go back and forth without having to actually fully open the preset browser. So for example, we can just go to the right here, go to the right some more, or go back. And you could even favorite this particular preset, again, without having to fully open the preset browser. So that is very, very cool. But now let's go ahead and open up the full preset browser by tapping on the Browse button. Now, a couple of features here that I really, really love that are in a couple of other apps as well, but really not enough. And that is a preset search and preset categories. So we can actually narrow down something by searching for it right here directly. We can just type in something like bass, and it immediately starts showing up all of our bass stuff. And beyond that, we do have those categories like I mentioned. So we can drill down into just flutes, and for example, maybe just dry. Or we can even go into something more useful like piano keys and then lo-fi. And if we clear out our bass, we're left with a couple of these exact presets. So we can tap on one of those. And as we already mentioned, another great feature is the ability to favorite your favorite presets. So you can see each one of these presets will have a little star next to it. And then once I tap on that, it will add it to my favorites. And then from here on out, I can just browse solely my favorite presets by tapping all here and then go into my favorites. So preset categories, preset favorites, and preset search. Very, very cool to have in your preset browser. Now, the next nice to have feature that I'd like to talk about is both audio and MIDI auditioning. And what do I mean by that? Well, what we have pulled up here is the Sample Crate app once again. Now, this app kind of markets itself as basically the music version of the Files app, or the Files app made for musicians and producers. But there is one pretty blatant feature that is missing, and it was actually missing from other apps as well, like AudioShare, for the longest time, and that is the ability to audition MIDI. So I have a bunch of MIDI here pulled up, but if I tap on one of these, you can hear nothing happens. And it's even the same in CUBASIS 3. If I pull up our MIDI browser and go to our MIDI, just tap on any one of our MIDI files here and load up a MIDI file, you can see that I can no longer audition this. The autoplay feature is grayed out. So in order to hear what this sounds like, I'd actually have to drag it on a track. And if we bring up AudioShare here we are in AudioShare with some MIDI files. And once again, you used to be able to not audition MIDI at all, but the developer did allow some functionality of that. So for example, if I tap on one of these here and hit play, you can hear that we do hear something, but a lot of the times it's really distorted. So if I click on another one, just doesn't sound like a nice piano. I really prefer just a nice grand piano to preview or audition these MIDI files. But again, some kind of sound is really better than nothing. So we absolutely need to be able to audition our MIDI files in our music apps. And the next nice to have feature is going to be audio visualization. Now this isn't applicable to every single plugin, and in fact is probably most used with effects more than instruments. But even still, we do love to see these visualizations. And of course, the number one example we have to point to that everybody knows is the FabFilter plugins. So if we start playing here, you'll be able to see the visualization in the background. Obviously, for EQing, this is invaluable to be able to know exactly where your frequencies are hitting. But visualization works great for a bunch of other plugins as well, like compressors and delays. It does take up a little extra CPU power, of course, but with the ever-expanding processing power of the iPads, we can really start to handle that now. At the very least, you can make it possible to toggle that option so that people on older devices can easily turn that off. Again, it is a nice to have, so it's not really required, but it is really, really cool. Now, this last and final feature might seem kind of obvious, but it's really not available in every single app, and that is super smooth dials and controls. So for example, if I place my finger on the screen here and just start moving ever so slightly, it should really be super precise and pick up every single one of my moves here. Go back to the full screen. See, I'm just using my finger to move it ever so slightly, and that works really, really well. But there are some Nimbrini audio apps and other apps where the controls aren't so smooth. So for example, here we have another Nimbrini app pulled up, the BG Ecstasy. And for whatever reason, these just don't go quite as smooth. Like you can see, as soon as I touched it, it started jumping there. And I guess it's more of like moving it up and down as opposed to just trying to move it left and right, you see. They just want you to move it up and down. But that's still not quite as smooth as a radial dial when you're just trying to move it left and right. And even beyond that, there's a bit of an issue where with all of the Nimbrini audio apps, trying to use the mouse just simply doesn't work. It just kind of goes haywire. If I start to try to move this nice and gentle with my mouse, I don't know if you can see that, but it is just kind of going crazy. It's going haywire when I'm trying to move it left and right. As you can see, like it's literally impossible to control these dials with a mouse. Now that makes it really, really tough, especially when you're using a mouse and keyboard like I am. Not everybody has a dedicated mouse and keyboard, of course, but it will become an increasing factor as more and more people use the iPad as a dedicated music production device. And again, I don't want to pick on any specific apps. There are a bunch of apps that have this mouse issue, where as soon as you try to use the mouse, the controls just kind of go haywire. Another example would be the BeatHawk app. So I thought I'd bring up BeatHawk to show you that. So basically, whenever you're actually moving the mouse, and if you try to touch something, stuff goes crazy. So while I'm moving the mouse, and I try to move up and down with my fingers, you can see that the menu is just kind of going crazy. If I just use my fingers, it works just as normal here. But as soon as I move my mouse, everything goes crazy. And for example, if I tap on one of these files over here, you can see that it's just crazy. It didn't select it. It just went up and down to the bottom of the list. You can tap it again and it works sometimes, but other times you tap something and it just does not want to play nicely. Again, it's all to do with the mouse and the mouse and keyboard support. See there, it did it again. So what we really need to make sure is that our controls are very smooth and for sure 100% support the mouse for more precise and accurate movements. All right, and now it's time again for our final thoughts. And if you are still rocking with us, then we just can't thank you enough for being here, especially those folks that are here every single Wednesday and Friday to watch our live streams and our live premieres. And remember guys, again, please make sure to comment on anything that we've missed, because we do want to turn this into an ultimate list on our blog, so that developers and others can easily find this information for years to come. Now, of course, some of these are a little bit subjective, but that really doesn't make them any less important or relevant, because you just never know what idea could inspire a developer to do something that you could never imagine. And just a quick shout out to Nick from MobiPixel for giving me the idea for this video during our last Mobile Music Roundtable podcast that just aired yesterday. It really was a blast speaking to all of these developers, and I really hope you guys check out this video because we really do need to keep communication open between developers and users so that we can avoid conflicts and set reasonable expectations. Plus, we are in the midst of launching a bunch of rock-related sample packs, including Crash, our brand new latest rock drum pack that you can find for 50% off still until next Monday. We are always releasing new stuff over here at Mobile Music Pro, and we have a bunch more stuff in a bunch more genres to go. So if you do want to keep up with everything that we are doing here at the channel, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to our completely free newsletter at MobileMusicPro.com/newsletter. And so until next time, everybody, keep talking music, and we'll see you later. Hey everybody, Vortex here, and if you're not aware yet, we now have over 100 fully edited mobile music tutorial videos. And we make music every single Wednesday live on our channel right inside of CUBASIS on our iPad. Plus, we also have a bunch of free sample packs, guides, and more at our website at MobileMusicPro.com/free. And so if you are into that sort of thing, producing music on your iPhone or iPad, then definitely make sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the videos on the channel that we know you'll love.